There are truths so close to us that they accompany us from birth, yet they remain hidden like a closely guarded secret. Among them, one of the most powerful is the difference between soul and spirit. Two words that many use as if they were synonyms, but which encompass completely different worlds. Understanding its mystery is not just an exercise in philosophy. It is the key to elevating the highest frequency of our existence. Imagine for a moment that you are a traveler in a vast temple. Upon crossing the first door, you find rooms filled with memories, emotions, joys, and sorrows. This is the realm of the soul, the space where the story of your life, your passions, and your fears are kept. But if you walk deeper, you reach a secret chamber, silent and luminous, where there is no time or form, only pure vibration. This is the realm of the spirit, the eternal spark that connects directly to the divine. The confusion between the two arises because they coexist within us like two intertwining rivers. The soul is the current that makes us human, gives us identity and sensitivity. The spirit, on the other hand, is the channel that transcends us, that reminds us that we are not just flesh and memory, but fragments of a greater consciousness. The soul feels, the spirit knows. The soul fluctuates with the ebb and flow of life. The spirit remains immutable, like a beacon in the midst of a storm. Why is it so important to understand this difference? Because most of our conflicts come from confusing the voices of the soul with those of the spirit. Sometimes we think we're following a higher intuition when in reality we're listening to the echo of an unresolved fear or desire. Other times we ignore that inner spark calling us toward the eternal because we're caught up in the emotions of everyday life. Knowing how to distinguish them is learning to walk with clarity. In this video, I'll guide you on a profound journey to unravel the nature of soul and spirit. We'll explore how ancient traditions understood this duality, what differentiating them means in practice, and above all, how you can use this knowledge to elevate your spiritual frequency to its highest expression. It's not about dogmas or abstract theories, but about understanding the subtle machinery of your being so that every breath, every thought, and every action resonates with the purest vibration of your essence. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to discover is not a simple lesson. It's a revelation. Within you lies a bridge between the human and the divine, between what changes and what endures. And by recognizing this, you will awaken to a more conscious, fuller, and more luminous life. Since time immemorial, sages, philosophers, and mystics from different cultures have grappled with the mystery of human nature. What are we in essence? Where does the eternal reside? And where does the transient reside? The answers have varied in form, but almost all agree on two fundamental principles: the soul and the spirit. In ancient Greece, Plato spoke of the soul as a traveler, divided into three horses pulling a single chariot: the rational soul, the irascible soul, and the concupiscent soul. But beyond these conflicting parts, Plato sensed that there was something higher, a spark that belonged not to the world of shadows, but to that of ideas. That pure principle was what we would call spirit today. The soul then struggled between the human and the divine, while the spirit was the gateway to the eternal world. In Hindu tradition, the Atman and the Jiva play a similar role. The Jiva is the individual soul, burdened by accumulated experiences, desires, and karmas. The Atman, on the other hand, is the absolute in every being, identical to the universal Brahman. Here we see the same distinction reflected: the soul as the bearer of memory and the spirit as the immutable flame that connects with the infinite. The Jiva can be born, die, and be reincarnated. The Atman never can. We also find this duality in Egyptian mysticism. They differentiated between the Ba, the representation of the soul with emotions and personality, and the K, the vital and eternal principle that remained beyond death. For the Egyptians, maintaining the balance between the two was essential to ensure the deceased's journey to the afterlife and their union with divinity. Even in Taoism, where wisdom is expressed in symbols rather than dogma, The coexistence of two internal forces is recognized. The Jhana, the ethereal soul, is linked to dreams, visions, and the spiritual, while the Po, the corporeal soul, is linked to the senses and the earth. Together they form the human being. But only the Jhana aspires to return to the celestial, while the Po dissolves with the body. What these cultures reveal to us is that the soul has always been seen as a bridge. It bears the traces of time, the scars of experience, the scent of memories. The spirit, on the other hand, appears as something that doesn't change, something that has always been there, even before we were born. The soul is a traveler. The spirit is origin and destination. This historical context allows us to understand that the modern confusion, treating soul and spirit as if they were one and the same, is a simplification that deprives us of a greater truth. By recovering this distinction, we discover that the soul is the book of our life, filled with written and blank pages, while the spirit is the invisible ink that makes that book possible. The mystery lies in this contrast. It's not a matter of choosing one or the other, but of learning to recognize and harmonize them. The soul needs the guidance of the spirit to avoid getting lost in the labyrinth of emotions and desires. And the spirit fully manifests itself only when the soul opens itself to its light. To understand the difference between soul and spirit, we must look within ourselves like one who observes an ancient temple. There are outer chambers filled with visible symbols, and an inner sanctuary where silence reigns. The soul and the spirit are those two dimensions. One is the echo of experience. The other is the eternal spark that sustains everything. The soul is the narrator of your story. It's made of memories, emotions, desires, and dreams. It's the sum of every tear and every laugh, of the lessons you inherited from your ancestors, and of the invisible marks left by encounters with other human beings. The soul is like a garden in constant change. Some flowers bloom, others wither. Some seeds wait in the darkness to germinate at the right time. That garden can bloom with beauty or become overgrown, with weeds depending on what you sow in it. The spirit, on the other hand, does not change. It is neither born nor dies, it neither withers nor blooms. It is the sun that illuminates the garden. Even though the seasons pass, even though the flowers wither, the sun continues to shine. Thus the spirit is your purest and most eternal part, the one that belongs neither to time nor space. While the soul is defined by its journey, the spirit is defined by its permanence. A clear metaphor is that of the ocean and the waves. The soul is like the waves. They rise, they churn, they crash against the rocks, they recede. Each wave is distinct, each movement unique. The spirit, on the other hand, is the deep, immense ocean that lies beyond the swaying of the surface. Without the ocean, there would be no waves, and without the spirit, there would be no soul. The interesting thing is that the two are intimately connected. The soul needs the spirit like a traveler. It needs a compass. If the soul disconnects from the spirit, it gets lost in a labyrinth of emotions, desires, and attachments. It can become trapped in guilt, fear, or anxiety, forgetting its true nature. But when the soul opens to the spirit, it finds clarity, strength, and purpose. It's as if the wave remembers that it belongs to the sea. The spirit, for its part, although immutable, needs the soul to express itself in the world. It's like an eternal melody that needs an instrument to make itself audible. The soul is an instrument. Sometimes it sounds in tune, other times out of tune, but it always retains the possibility of resonating with divine music. A central teaching emerges here. The soul vibrates, the spirit radiates. The soul can vibrate at low frequencies when dominated by fear, envy, or hopelessness, or it can rise to high frequencies when it cultivates gratitude, compassion, and love. The spirit, on the other hand, always vibrates at the highest frequency. It knows neither density nor confusion, only purity. Therefore, spiritual work consists of aligning the soul with the spirit so that both flames burn together, illuminating life from the inside out. We can then say that the soul is the bridge and the spirit is the goal. The soul walks, stumbles, rises, and learns. The spirit waits, unchanging, like the horizon that never disappears, even when the traveler changes course. When you manage to recognize this difference, something powerful happens. You no longer identify only with the waves of the soul, but also with the depths of the spirit. You discover that you are both traveler and destination, path and light. This is the beginning of true spiritual elevation, understanding that two fires burn within you, and your task is to unite them in a single radiance. Once you understand the difference between soul and spirit, an inevitable question arises: how can you bring the two together? Herein lies the great mystery of existence. Unite the mutable with the eternal, what vibrates with what radiates. The soul, by its nature, is changeable. It's like a mirror of water that reflects every cloud, every ray of sunshine, every passing storm. The problem arises when the soul believes these reflections are its true identity. Then fear becomes its master. Sadness becomes destiny. Desire becomes a prison. The soul can become trapped in the illusion of its reflections, forgetting that beneath that surface lies a deep, serene, and eternal sea. The spirit in contrast, is that perfect stillness that needs nothing to prove. It has no hurry or need. It's like the inner fire that never goes out, even when the wind blows outside. However, although it is always present, the spirit does not impose its light. It waits to be acknowledged. And this is where the human challenge arises. The soul must learn to silence its noises in order to hear the quiet voice of the spirit. This process is not free from contradictions. Often the soul seeks expansion, achievement, and recognition. It wants to grow, create, and experience, because that is its function, to move in the world. The spirit, on the other hand, seeks nothing, because it already is everything. For this reason, many traditions have described this relationship as a dance. The soul dances, explores, moves from one extreme to the other, while the spirit remains like the silent drum that beats the invisible rhythm. True spiritual elevation consists in not rejecting any of these parts. It's not about denying the soul because it's considered too earthly, nor about idealizing the spirit as a distant and unattainable treasure. It's about integration. The soul needs to remember that it belongs to the spirit, and the spirit needs the soul to be the channel for its expression in the material world. We could think of it as the meeting of the river and the sea. The river flows, sometimes mighty, sometimes gentle, but always in motion. The sea, on the other hand, awaits it immense, endless, ready to embrace every drop. When the river reaches the sea, it doesn't disappear. It is transformed. Likewise, when the soul surrenders to the spirit, it doesn't lose its uniqueness, but expands into a greater whole. The daily challenge is to keep this connection alive. It's not enough to intellectually understand the difference between soul and spirit. It must be practiced, felt, and experienced in every decision, every silence, every emotion. Only in this way does the soul gradually attune itself to the eternal vibration of the spirit, until both beat as one luminous heart. Knowing that soul and spirit coexist within you is just the beginning. True transformation occurs when you decide to consciously build a bridge between both dimensions. This bridge is not built with physical bricks, but with practices, attitudes, and silences that fine-tune your inner frequency. Below, I'll share 5 powerful keys that are more than techniques, but living paths to remembering your eternal origin. First, silence is the language of the spirit. The soul expresses itself through words, emotions, and constant thoughts. The spirit, on the other hand, speaks in silence. When you stop and listen to what lies behind the mental noise, the spirit reveals itself. You don't need long hours, just a few moments of conscious attention, breathing deeply before reacting, contemplating a sunrise without seeking explanations. Silence is the space where your soul ceases to be an echo and becomes a receiver of the eternal. Second, gratitude as a tuner of the soul. The soul vibrates at different frequencies. Fear sinks it, envy deflects it, but gratitude elevates it. Giving thanks is not a mechanical act. It's an alchemy that transforms what you have into abundance and what you lack into opportunity. When your soul is filled with gratitude, it resonates with the pure frequency of the Spirit. Make gratitude a habit. When you wake up, be grateful for your breathing. Before you sleep, be grateful for what you've learned. This practice opens invisible doors. Third, the body is a temple of connection. Although we talk about the invisible, the body is the altar where union takes place. Taking care of your body isn't vanity. It's reverence, conscious posture, deep breathing, and a calm walk. All of this seals the union between soul and spirit. When your body is in harmony, the soul finds balance, and the spirit can radiate without blockages. Don't underestimate the simplicity of straightening your spine or walking barefoot on the earth. These are subtle keys that awaken ancestral memories. Fourth, compassion as a mirror of the spirit. The soul usually focuses on its personal story, but when you practice compassion, your soul expands beyond itself. By understanding and accompanying the pain of others, the soul remembers that it is part of a greater whole, and that whole is precisely the vibration of the spirit. Compassion not only heals others, it also fine-tunes your own frequency and brings you closer to the eternal fire that never goes out. Fifth, intention as a luminous compass. Nothing in the soul moves without intention. Every thought, every action carries a seed of energy. When that seed is born of selfishness, the flower that grows is fragile and ephemeral. But when it is born from a clear and luminous intention, the flower becomes a tree that feeds many. Define your intentions consciously. Don't pray only for yourself. Pray in harmony with the greater good. Conscious intention is the compass that aligns your soul with the eternal path of the spirit. By applying these keys, your life ceases to be a succession of random events and becomes a conscious path. Each step becomes a ritual, each gesture an opportunity to raise your frequency. And little by little, like someone lighting a lamp in the dark, you will discover that your soul is not separate from your spirit. They are two flames that, when united, illuminate your entire being. At this point, we no longer see soul and spirit as separate concepts, but as two dimensions of the same being. One is the tireless traveler who experiences, stumbles, and learns. The other is the eternal presence that silently sustains the journey. Both coexist within you, waiting to be acknowledged, honored, and above all united. The soul, with its emotions, dreams, and memories, is like a manuscript in constant writing. Each day it adds new phrases, some filled with joy, others tinged with pain. The spirit, on the other hand, is the blank page upon which everything can be written. Without that page, the text would have nowhere to exist. And without the text, the page would remain silent and waiting. This is the relationship between these two forces, inseparable, complementary, and necessary. Raising your spiritual frequency does not mean fleeing from the soul or despising the human to embrace only the eternal. It means allowing your soul, with all its experiences, to resonate to the same melody as your spirit. It means learning to recognize in every emotion, even fear or sadness, an opportunity to return to center. It's like tuning an instrument so that the music that emerges from it doesn't distort the melody, but rather expresses it in its purest form. When you achieve this union, something profound happens. Your outlook on life changes. You are no longer caught up solely in the ups and downs of existence, but rather you discover the immensity of the ocean behind every wave. You realize that you are simultaneously the traveler and the horizon, the river and the sea, the echo and the source. And in that awareness, everything takes on a new meaning. Problems are no longer chains, but teachers. Losses cease to be final and become thresholds to a broader understanding of your own eternity. This is where the highest spiritual frequency reveals itself, not as a distant state of ecstasy reserved for an enlightened few, but as a daily practice of remembering. Remember who you are beyond your fleeting emotions. Remember that your spirit has never been broken and that your soul always has the opportunity to return to it. Remember that within you coexist the fragility of humanity and the grandeur of the eternal. Inner silence, conscious contemplation, and trusting surrender are keys that unlock this connection. And by practicing them, your life itself becomes a sacred ritual. Every breath is a prayer. Every conscious gesture is an offering. Every moment of gratitude is a bridge between the mutable and the immutable. Dear seeker, this is the final call. Tune your soul to the frequency of your spirit. Allow both to meet in a luminous embrace. Don't wait for tomorrow, because the perfect moment is now. Make your life a living temple, where soul and spirit sing in unison. And you will discover that what you always sought outside was silently shining within you. And if this message resonated with you, I invite you to share it. Subscribe, leave your like, and share this knowledge with other hearts who also seek to remember who they truly are. Because each awakening soul lights a beacon that illuminates all of humanity. No.